Handicapper Steve here, handicapping the racing from Monmouth Park here on Saturday. It is the 15th of June 2024. It's Haskell preview day from Monmouth, and I'm going to look at all the stakes races on the program. But before I get on to that, remember to please follow me on Twitter at HorseRacingCat5 for more selections for race courses around the world, and I mean it around the world. Remember to join me tonight for my North America Cup preview from Mohawk, and also join me tomorrow for my Prix de Diane preview, the French Oaks from Chantilly, and next week for Royal Ascot. So we have some good racing in the weeks ahead. But let's look at the stakes action here. Races 9 through 12, all conveniently packed in an all stakes pick 4. It's also a part of the cross country pick 4 with the Naira race with the Better Roses, if I'm not mistaken. So make sure you play those tickets. I've been known to play. I haven't handicapped it yet for YouTube, but I definitely have played quite a few of those cross country pick 5s over the winter with those Oaklawn races, and last year with some of those races from I know Indiana. I played one when they had the Indiana Derby last year connected to this, but make sure you play it because it's a very good wager. But 9 through 12, let's get to it right now. The 9th race going to the lawn, it is the Eatontown Stakes. It's a grade 3 event going for a purse of $150,000. Race for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and upwards. Field 10 horses going 1,700 meters or a mile 16th on the Monmouth turf course. Going to go to the 1-horse Sacred Wish. We'll go 1-7-4-6 in the superfecta. 1-7-4-6 super, top selection of 1-horse Sacred Wish. This 4-year-old filly by not this time. George Weaver Trans, Kendrick Carmouche gets the mount. The horse's most recent outing came the 17th of May at Aqueduct, a mile 16th on a good lawn and optional 62 claimer, and the horse won by 4 lengths that day and set some good fractions on the front end from the rail, and basically won in a hand ride that day. 90 Buyer, second off the bench. That was a very good run. Refreshing back to stakes quality horses on turf where this horse really has improved a lot. I think this horse is sitting on a very good run and can find the winner's circle here today. 2 back in the lounge race for $109,000 at Keelan, a mile on the 20th of April. She finished third by 3/4 of the length that day, and she was just a little bit wide, and she was just a little bit lackadaisical. Probably need the race for her being her first start since the 11th of November, but she got around the race course well. She's definitely had worse races on dirt, and then prior to that she ran in the Valley View, in the Pebbles at Aqueduct, 1 mile on the 11th of November. Off a quick turnaround from the previous race, 2.5 weeks. She finished second by a half length that day. She was stupidly wide, but she really had a good turn of foot, and not a bad race there. Prior to in the Valley View, she finished fourth by 1/4 lengths, where she had a very, trouble trip in the final 2 furlongs where everybody was closing up. She just couldn't get there, but she ran her heart out. Keep in mind, quite a few of those horses were next out winners out of that race. That was a good Valley View last year. And then in the winter memories prior to that at Aqueduct, her first start on the turf locally, went by 1 1/4 lengths. She was stupidly wide, but she jumped up a lot of buyer points to win that day. She's proven she wants to run on the green stuff. She's back on it today, getting Kendrick up. He can win, or she can win. I think the 7-horse here, who is Tax Implications for Flavian and Chad Brown, this is a horse I'm definitely going to use in the cross country and in the pick 4 here. Most recently, locally in the Miss Liberty over the mile 16th, she finished third by 3 lengths that day, and she just was a little bit wide that day, which probably cost her. She just couldn't catch the leader, but she ran her heart out that day with an 87 Buyer. Prior to that, Aqueduct on the mile 16th down the inner in a lounge race back in April, she finished second by a neck that day. Rambeek just had the jump on her and caught her on the wire. This horse just, was a little lackadaisical late, maybe needed the race there. And the races last summer, she had a very nice place in Lake George, came back to run a disappointing fourth in the Lake Placid, where she just saw a little bit too soft turf course, and then in the winter memory she just had no just nothing out of the gate, which really wasn't a good thing for her. She likes running on fast ground. She's going to see it today. Her races last spring where she was running on fast ground were quite impressive. A decent place behind Liguria and the Wild Applause of Belmont last year. She broke her main here as a 2-year-old quite easily. I'll give her a shot on the ticket at 7-2. She could definitely win. But to recount my selections now for the 9th from Monmouth, it is the Eatontown. I'm going to take the 1-horse Sacred Wish. Give kudos to the 7-horse here, Tax Implications. 1-7-4-6 super, 1-7 in the multi-race. The feature 10th race now from Monmouth, it is the Pegasus Stakes. It's a listed stakes for a purse $150,000 race for 3-year-olds here. I always thought this race was a grade 3 or something like that. Years ago it probably was, but field of 8 horses in the Pegasus going 1,700 meters, a mile 16th on the main track. Years ago, the Pegasus used to be run at the Meadowlands during their fall championship meeting. You had the I believe it went to Meadowlands Cup one weekend, and then the Pegasus for 3-year-olds the last weekend after that. And it was a part of that good stake schedule they had at the Meadowlands, along with the Cliffhanger, along with the Violet, the John Henry, and a good turf race. So I can't wait. One of these years, I hope the Meadowlands brings back their full fall thoroughbred meeting. But with that being said, I love the one-horse Tuscan Sky here. I'm going to go 1738 in the superfecta. 1738 Super, top selection, the one-horse Tuscan Sky. This 3-year-old colt by Vino Rosso here. Tom Pletcher trains. Javier Castellano gets the mount. Horse hasn't been seen since the Wood Memorial at Aqueduct. Mile Nathan, 6th of April, and he finished 7th by 12 lengths that day, and he was a little bit wide. He tried moving that day, but he was really, at the top of the lane, there was a little bit of an incident where a horse went down. He wasn't, involved with it so much, but he, it looked like he with the commotion, he just kind of pulled himself out of it. What can you do? It just was a very weird run race. I think refreshing here with a better layout, lesser quality, lesser horses. I don't think it's quality. I don't think Wood Memorial this year was the world's toughest race, but coming here today, I think he's going to be in a better spot to win. He ran at the fairgrounds prior to that on the slop, mile 16th and optional 100, first-time winners, only had 2 other rivals, but he walked on the front end, winning by 2 lengths that day, and basically from a tracking trip, he beat Nash Home, was next star winner sprinting again after that, but this horse, he ran his heart out that day against the big boys, and then at Aqueduct on the 13th of January, 6 furlongs in the mud in the main special weight, winning by 5 1/4 lengths that day. From a tracking trip, he was a little bit wide, but he really took off clear. Training well at Churchill since the Wood Memorial. Refreshing here. He could be forwardly paced, getting blinkers on. I'm going to give him a shot on the ticket. I think the 7-horse domestic product, my Derby pick, can get a better trip than he did in the Derby last time out. Chad Brown trains. Flavian gets the mount. Most recently in the Derby, he finished 13th by 32, by 23 3/4 lengths that day to be exact, and he didn't get out of the gate so clearly. He was wide, and he just couldn't keep up. It wasn't his day to win. He ran terrifically, though, in the Tampa Bay Derby, where he closed up into a pedestrian pace, but he went by neck that day, stupidly wide, but it was a very good run for him that day. And then the Holy Bull, if the race is a mile Nathan Holy Bull, he would have won, but he finished 2nd by 2 lengths. Again, a very pedestrian pace, but he really gained a lot of ground that day. Keep in mind, 3rd place finisher Fierceness was the next start winner. If I'm not mistaken, I think Fierceness is looking forward to the Haskell, or looking towards the Haskell as his next start. But this horse, he beat Fierceness that day, and he nearly got to Hayes, who's running back this one. Ran his heart out that day. And then the Remsen against stablemate Sierra Leone, he just wasn't getting into it. He was wide, and he just couldn't keep up. Sierra Leone was the next start winner. Dornock won, next start winner in the Fountain of Youth, went on to win the Belmont last week. But this horse ran his heart out against him. And then prior to that, in a main special weight at Aqueduct in late October, won by 4 1/4 lengths. He was a little bit wide, but he really took off clear. Training well since the Derby. Back to these quality horses at 3 1. I'll give him a massive shot on the ticket here today. But to recount my selections for the 10th from Monmouth, it is the Pegasus. Going to take the 1-horse Tuscan Sky. Give kudos to the 7-horse domestic product. 1738 Super. 1-7 in the multi-race. The 11th race now from Monmouth. It is the Monmouth Stakes. It's a grade 3 event going for a $150,000 purse, race for 3-year-olds and upwards. Field of this UN prep race, field of 9 horses going the 1,800-meter journey, or mile 8 here in the Monmouth Stakes. If I'm not mistaken, I believe this race was created in 2008 for Big Brown to have a turf race going into the Breeders' Cup Classic, because Dick Dutrow wanted not to run him in a dirt race going into the Classic. Unfortunately, he did win this race that they created for him. Unfortunately, he had to miss the Classic and was retired after that, but and that's why you have a Monmouth Stakes. They brought it back now as a, after that as a kind of a prep race for the UN, which is a very good race year after year. And since moving the UN to Haskell, it's become a great run, a great race. With that being said, my top selection here, I'm going to go with the 9-horse Running B. We'll go 9. Where are we? We'll go 9-5-4-6 in the superfecta. 9-5-4-6 super. Top selection 9-horse Running B. This 5-year-old horse by English Channel. Chad Brown trains. Vincent Chiminade gets the mount. It seems like he's been all across the East Coast the last few weeks. Vincent Chiminade riding at Delaware, Pimlico, New York. If I'm not mistaken, I might have even seen him at Churchill and at what do you call that, down in Florida. But a very underrated French rider. But this horse's most recent outing came Pimlico on Preakness Day on the very heavy turf course. Mile Nathan, the dinner party. She finished 3rd by 4.5 lengths that day, and he was just wide and just not keeping up. Got beat by slightly better horses on the day. Refreshing against these horses, I think he's run buyers that could keep up here on the fast ground, and I think he could get the job done here today. Two back in allowance race for $130,000 at Keeneland, a mile 16th, 6th of April. He won by half a length that day, and he stalked that day. He got the lead. He flew home clear late with the Lasix on, or Lasix administered that day. That was a very good run. And then the Tampa Bay Stakes at Tampa, mile 16th, 3rd of February. Finishing second by a half a length was a very, very wide trip, which cost him. He stalked that day off some good fractions. He had the lead. He got overtaken by Never Explained late, but he ran his heart out that day. And then the Fort Lauderdale Gulfstream over the mile and 8th, a very wide trip. He finished 8th by 5 lengths that day, and he just wasn't getting there. But off the long refreshing at Keeneland, at Aqueduct, going mile 16th and off 6-2 in November, he won quite nicely. He won by 3 3/4 lengths that day, and he had a wide post draw, but Irad broke on top that day with him, and he didn't look back. 96 buyer off the year plus break. That was a very impressive run. Getting Shimonot, who's a very underrated turf rider, up on him today. Back to fast ground. I think 4-1's a great price on him. I definitely use in the cross country and the late pick 4 here today. I think the 5-horse Siege of Boston for Jimmy Toner and Jorge Ruiz, another very underrated rider on the Mid-Atlantic region, gets the mount on this one. I think his race in the Turf Classic off the bench, he needed that race. He finished 6th by 5 1/4 lengths. He was wide, and he just wasn't catching Program Trading and Naval Power, who just had the jump on him. Prior to that, in the Canadian Turf at Gulfstream of the mile 16th in March, he finished second by a half a length that day. He was stupidly wide, but he ran his heart out that day. And then the Tampa Bay Stakes, he finished 3rd by 3/4 length. Again, a little bit late that day, but he got around the race course well. Since stepping up to stakes quality horses last summer, he's really improved a lot. He's run these good mid-90s to late 90 buyers that could definitely win here today. At 7-2, I'll definitely use him in the pick 4 and in the cross-country pick 5. And even the 4-horse Grand Sonata for Tom Pletcher and Javier. His race, 2 back at Aqueduct off the bench, he needed that race. But his races last fall weren't bad at all. I'll give him a shot here on the ticket, but I do prefer the other 2 before him. But to recount my selection for the 11th now for Monmouth, it is the Monmouth Stakes, a very good Monmouth Stakes. I'm going to take the 9-horse Running Bee, give kudos to the 5-horse Siege of Boston and the 4-horse Grand Sonata, 9-5-4-6 Super, 9-5-4 in the multi-race. Let's get to the nightcap, the 12th race for Monmouth, a race very rich in Monmouth Park history. 12th race, it's the Salvator Mile. It's a grade 3 event going for $150,000 purse, race for 3-year-olds and upwards. We have a field of 8 horses going 1,600 meters, or 1 lap around the Monmouth main track, which is a mile in circumference. I'm going to take the 2-horse Bright Future as the top selection here in the Salvator Mile. 2-5-4-3 for me in the superfecta. 2-5-4-3 super. Top selection, the 2-horse Bright Future. This 5-year-old horse by Curlin here. Top Pletcher trains. Javier Castellano gets them out. It seems like this is the kind of horse that's just taking a little bit of time to get to the racetrack, but since he's on the racetrack, he's running these good races and then these clunkers. I believe I picked him in the Brews Cup Classic last time out. Silly on me. He had a wide trip and he just got beat by better horses on the day, finishing 6th by 6 3/4 lengths at Santa Anita. It wasn't his day to win. In hindsight, it probably wasn't the world's toughest Brews Cup Classic as we ever had, but he just got beat by better horses on the day. You could say the same for the race before in the Jock Club Gold Cup at Saratoga. Monocore 2nd of September. Wasn't the world's toughest jockey club, but he won by a nose that day. He had a very wide trip. He left out of the gate. He got the lead. He was kind of yielding late, but Javier just rode him to the wire to get the job done. A very, very good race from that day. And then back at Saratoga on the 21st July, mile Nathan off 62. He needed a confidence build boost from his previous race where he ran horribly. He got the confidence boost that day. He won by 4 3/4 lengths. He was a little bit wide that day, but he broke to the front end. He quickened up, and he got the job done. A very good race. That Brooklyn handicap at Belmont over the mile and a half, he just, first started around 2 turns. Another race, I think I bet him. He just did not do a lot of running. He finished 8th by 4 3 1/4 lengths. He was wide, and he basically walked home. It wasn't his day to win. But before that, over the 1-turn miles at Gulfstream and at Belmont, weren't bad races at all. Has run his last 3 races at triple-digit buyers. They could definitely win here today. Tom Pletcher has decent numbers off the bench at 20%. I'll give this horse a shot on the ticket. I think the 5-horse Oscar Eclipse for Brian Lynch and Jorge Ruiz could get a trip to win also. A little bit far between races going 2 turns, but his race 2 back in the Sir Shackleton was a very nice victor, winning by a neck, closing up from the back of the pack. Came back to run the Knicks Go Derby Day at Churchill, where he finished 6th by 11 lengths, never getting a good trip. Also was a little bit wide, but had a decent 3rd in the Bourbon Trail last year, and won a very nice allowance race at Ellis last year that could definitely win against these horses. Training well at Churchill with a half mile 48 4 last time out. I'm going to give him a shot here at 9-2 to end off this multi-race wagers. But to recount my selection for the nightcap from Monmouth, now the 12th race, it's the Grade 3 Salvator Mile. Going to take the 2-horse Bright Future, give kudos to the 5-horse Oscar Eclipse, 2-5, 4-3 Super, 2-5 in the multi-race. So with that being said, good luck to all, and please follow me on Twitter at HorseRacingKid5. Good luck, everybody.